everybody. Well, today is Sunday, and so that means it's time for another one of our Sunday devotionals. I never thought that going into this, we'd be on our, our sixth or
I
seventh
know. I would
devotional.
never have expected that either. That's so crazy.
I mean, by the end of the summer, we're going to have quite the series.
Oh my gosh,
We're going to
yes.
be like, what else is there to talk about? I mean, I guess we can always go back and just talk about the same topics again.
Yeah, I mean, all the topics have multiple layers we could
That's right.
dive into. So,
Yeah,
I'm
we could
sure we
have
got,
a whole forgiveness month.
yeah, there. Oh, there you go. There you go. June will be Forgiveness Month and
That's right.
July will be Freedom Month.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. All the we can have all the mean things that you said during quarantine. We can work
Yes.
through it. Well, this is what we have been doing the last month and a half. Is we've been trying to give some spiritual nourishment to all of you and to ourselves during this time of quarantine, since there's no church. And I hope you all have enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed it. And Chris from Durbania is here with me, as he's been every week. And thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This has been pretty nourishing for me too. It's weird to not go to church on Sundays, but this is a very nice thing to do.
Yeah. So have you had a good week?
Yeah, so far so good. Finished editing my church stuff for today, so that was nice. Getting my services to do their quote unquote live stream, because it's not really live, but the chat is live. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I had a pretty good week. I'll talk a little bit about it in my talk. One of the things that happened, but I was feeling a little bit better from the things that I've not. It's not 100%, but still, I haven't been able to completely lick it. But at least there were some improvements, so that was nice.
That is good.
And able to keep pretty busy.
Yes.
So that's always good too.
Yeah. I've been super busy and all that fun stuff with all the editing for my church. So it's been nice. It's more work and doing something for my church that, they haven't been able to get going before, like giving them a real cool online presence. So it's been awesome, but it's been busy.
It's really interesting. So the topic this week is on gratitude. And I don't know if it was just because I was thinking about gratitude all week, but I swear it seemed like every day there was something that happened that I was like, oh, I can use this in my talk. But then I had so many things that I couldn't use it all. One day I got I had done this little podcast with one of the leaders of our little congregation, and it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. And the head of the Sunday school, he gave me this really, really thoughtful, very nice thank you note and little and chocolate, which is always good.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. It was just one of those things that it just seemed like every day something happened. And I don't know if it was just because I was actually thinking about it, and things like that do happen on a regular basis, or if it was just because it was just kismet. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's amazing how that happens, right?
Yeah. So what we do on this series is I'll read my little talk or sermon, or however you like to describe it, and then we'll have a good discussion, and it's going to be fun. So here we go. In Luke 17, we learn of 10 lepers who came to be healed of Jesus. In desperation, they lifted up their voices and pled with the Lord for mercy from their terrible situation. And when he saw, he said unto them, go, shew yourselves unto the priests. And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. One can only imagine the joy that all 10 men felt at the miracle they had just experienced. However, only one took the next step to consecrate their experience to the Lord by turning back and saying, and with a loud voice, glorified God, and fell down on his face at his feet, giving him thanks, and he was a Samaritan. And Jesus answering said, were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? There are not found that return to give glory to God, save the stranger. And he said unto him, arise, go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. This is an interesting account because 2 different kinds of healings are happening. First, all 10 men received the miracle of a physical healing from the leprosy. But secondly, only one, and a Samaritan no less, received the spiritual healing from their sins by the Lord. It would be interesting to know what happened to the 9 men to stop them from giving gratitude. Perhaps it was celebrations of the miracle with family and friends over their renewed health. Whatever it may be, their joy in the miracle, they forgot the miracle worker. And that's why gratitude is so important. It's always interesting when God seems to care so much about the words that come out of our mouths. Why, for instance, does he care that we take his name in vain? Indeed, he cares so much that he puts it as one of the key 10 commandments. In the case of gratitude, he knows our hearts. So why does he care so much that he needs us to say thank you vocally to him and to those around us? I think the answer lies in the humility factor. When you express gratitude, you acknowledge to the world your dependence on others for happiness. A prideful heart cannot enter the kingdom of heaven, and true gratitude allows us to remove that pride and be totally open to whatever experiences he has in store for you. One of the most touching parts of this whole quarantine experience has been the unity we have achieved through expressions of gratitude for our essential workers. Whether it be seen through New Yorkers banging pots and pans at a designated time, people putting signs on their lawns for delivery drivers, or even the many social media posts saying thank you, gratitude has been all over the place in this time of great anxiety. Gratitude has bonded us together, so it truly feels like we are all in this together. This last Friday, I had the chance to get out of the house and go to a social distancing, safe drive-in movie theater. This unique event was put on by a local movie theater who not only wanted to keep their employees working, but provide a service to the community during this difficult time. I cannot tell you what it meant to me after 6 weeks of quarantine to see Jurassic Park, one of my all-time favorite movies, in my car, very safe, at the movies. It was a very emotional experience for me, and I said so in a message of gratitude on my Insta story. The employees responded in kind. Quote, "You may have needed that movie, but we definitely needed this story." Kind messages are what makes it worth it. We're so happy you enjoyed it, enjoyed coming, and we appreciate you. This made our night. Thank you. This sharing of gratitude and making each other feel valued turns a fun experience into a consecrated one that God smiles upon. I would wager all of us have had experiences like this during this difficult time. We've all felt the powerful bond where a thank you meant the world. I hope we carry that with us post-quarantine. And we always remember the lesson of the 10th leper. Physical healing is life-altering, but the healing of our hearts through gratitude is quite possibly the closest we can get to kneeling at Jesus' feet right here on this earth. For this, I'm truly grateful. So you've had a week to think about this idea of gratitude.
Yes.
And what were some of the thoughts that you had?
Oh, man. Well, you brought up gratitude, and actually about 5 or 6 years ago as a Thanksgiving message to my church. We used to have a Wednesday night service, and I got to be on a rotation of speakers on the Wednesday night service, and I got to do the Thanksgiving sermon.
Nice.
And so I went back to find that sermon that I wrote because I remember there's a lot of cool things in there, like quotes from Psychology Today about how thankfulness actually physically impacts your brain for the better and why thankfulness is such an important thing to carry in your life. And one of the first things I found when I found my notes is this pastor, and I wish I could have found his name so that I could give his name in the quote because it's one of the best quotes I've seen for what worry is. He said, "Worry is a small trickle of fear that meanders through the mind until it cuts a channel into which all other thoughts are drained." And when I read that, I thought that is so true. And one of the things that you want to do, because your mind gets on this thing called a confirmation bias, and so it wants to continue to confirm what it thinks is already true. So you got to be careful what cycle you put your mind on. And in this 2012 article from Psychology Today, this guy, Alex Cord, PhD, he's a researcher at UCLA, he wrote this: "Gratitude can have such a powerful impact on your life because it engages your brain into a virtuous cycle. your brain only has so much power to focus its attention. It cannot easily focus on both positive and negative stimuli. On top of that, your brain loves to fall for the confirmation bias. That is, it looks for things to prove what it already believes to be true. And the dopamine reinforces that as well. So once you start seeing things to be grateful for, your brain starts looking for more things to be grateful for. That's how the virtuous cycle works. So it like hits the reward center in your brain when you find something truly to be thankful for, which gives you that hit of dopamine, and your brain likes that. So once you start that cycle of looking for things to be thankful for, your brain will want to stay on that cycle because it likes that dopamine. And Philippians 4:7 says, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And that's something that I want in my life. I want his peace to guard my heart and my mind. But how do we get that? In verse 7, you have to go through verse 6. And verse 6 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And there's a version of the Bible called The Message. And a lot of people don't like it because it's more of a paraphrase. But sometimes I think it hits the nail on the head with its paraphrase. So paraphrasing verse 6, it says this, don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. And one of the other sentences I just totally skipped over, it says, let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers. And what I love about that is that's the power of thankfulness in the brain. And it goes back to what you said about those 10 lepers, because it is kind of pride that I think kept the others from coming back and being thankful. And so when you think about that one that came back and was thankful, you think about how that thankfulness was affecting his mind, or at least the good mindset his mind was in, that he would come back and be thankful. And so like, it's interesting because I find during this time of quarantine with my church, I've been editing our services for Sunday and all that stuff. So I go, I film, I edit, and it's pretty stressful. And I found I can either yield to that stress and be overwhelmed because, I'm trying to keep my channel going and do other things, or I could be thankful. I'm in quarantine and I find myself more busy with more work to do. I find myself with things that are challenging me to learn more about my camera, to learn more about my video editing, to dive into things that I never would have dived into before. And when we take those things and frame them around thankfulness, it changes the way our brain is thinking. And so thankfulness is powerful on so many levels. And when we start to find that true, genuine things to be thankful for, we got to let our brain stay on that because it will change our outlook.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, that thinking about gratitude this week made me more grateful for everything that was happening. I was like, oh, wow, I got this thank you note. I got this. And wow, it just felt like, oh, is he trying to help me? Is God trying to help me prepare for this talk? Or am I just more aware of everything because I'm doing this talk? But I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And there's something about I think that when you say thank you, if you take an experience that's just a pleasant experience, it's just a personal experience, and you make it like a group experience. Like, for instance, going to the movie, was a pleasant experience by myself. But because I said thank you and I shared that, all of a sudden it was this group experience, but that basically kind of consecrated the experience as something special. And so that's the difference between what happened with the 9 people that were healed versus the one that had the experience consecrated with the Lord, because they just had an amazing experience. He had an amazing experience, and he shared that experience with Jesus.
Yes.
The best person to consecrate something with.
Yes. But well, that's the amazing thing about being thankful, because like you said, it made your night that theater put that on, and you got to do this really cool social distancing safe event, but you got to get out of the house. You got to experience a movie you loved on the big screen. The fact that they did that, I mean, just changed your mind for the better right there. And then the fact that you repaid that by saying thank you. all that work and all that effort they put into that to make that happen, like it just brightens their night. It's
Yeah.
amazing how, like you said, it consecrates it. Thankfulness takes that joy and it elevates that joy to the next level. And I remember when I did this message, you know, I deal with anxiety a lot in my life. And I felt like when I was writing this message, it wasn't me writing this message. It was God talking to me. And then you saying, let's do this as our thing this Sunday. Going through it again, it was like God talking to me again.
Mm-hmm.
Take what you're anxious about and what you're fearful about and wrap it with thanksgiving and just present it as a request. But be thankful, because as we're being thankful, it cuts that new channel in our brain through which thoughts can trickle through. And it's a very powerful, like you said, that consecrating thing. It's very
Yeah.
powerful.
And it can really help you walk in another person's shoes a little bit more.
Yes.
Is trying to focus on what is it that I'm thankful for in this situation. For instance, also this week, I had a Walmart order that delivered to my house, and I was kind of irritated because the delivery lady, she didn't speak English very well, and I was trying to explain to her, because in order to get into my house, to the gate, you need to enter pound and then the code. Right. And she did not understand what that meant, pound. And it's really hard. It's like it seems like such an easy thing, but I was like trying to explain it to her and she just did not understand. So I'm getting more and more frustrated. And I'm like, why did they send this person out to deliver something if she can't even understand a basic keypad, you know? Like, I was getting so frustrated. And then so she came and she finally got in. Somebody else came, thank goodness. And she delivered the items. And I just was really trying to focus on, you know, thank you so much. And it kind of helped me, the fact that I said thank you, it kind of helped me to kind of see from her perspective as this person, how frustrating and hard that must be if you can't speak English and you're trying to do this job that for whatever reason they picked, you know, they hired you to do, and you can't understand. Like all of a sudden I had a whole new, I felt sorry for her as opposed to feeling irritated, and it helped me kind of see things from her point of view. And I think that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like this concept of gratitude, it really turns a one-person experience into a two-person experience.
Yes.
And that there's something really special about that.
Yeah, for sure. It's like this whole thing with my church, you know, like they've been so cool because they've been so grateful, because every Sunday they have a service to post online, and it keeps our church relevant. It keeps us going. It's a way for our congregation to connect, and they keep letting me know how thankful they are that I'm taking the time to edit this. But it's funny because I'm super thankful because I could be quarantined and be going nuts. And they're paying me. How amazing is that? And so here during this time where, you know, the movie theater I work at is closed and other things I do are closed, and now I haven't lost a beat on income because my church is blessing me by allowing me to be part of this, because it's something I do for fun, like YouTube anyway.
Right.
And so I just, you know, for me, it's amazing because, like you said, it turns it into a two-person thing. They're grateful that they have a service, but I'm grateful that I have work. I have stuff to do, and it's stuff that to me has real meaning. And so that thankfulness goes both ways, and it deepens that relationship.
Yeah. And I think we do also have to be careful that that we honor that gratitude, that it's not just because sometimes I feel like, I wonder if some of the, for instance, for our essential workers, some of the gratitude, it's like, is it like a little kid being forced to say, I'm sorry? You know, like, I'm sorry, whatever, you know, like that they do. And it's kind of, thank you, Mom, you know, kind of thing. Like, is it that sort of experience, or are we thinking about these essential people in a whole new way? Is it impacting our lives? Are we consecrating the experience? Or are we just paying lip service because it's kind of the cool thing to do? You know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because this Psychology Today thing that I read years ago when I put this message together, when it would talk about thankfulness, it's not the lip service kind. The lip service kind doesn't give your brain that dopamine hit and put your brain on that virtuous cycle. That doesn't do it. Genuine thankfulness, like when you have that genuine gratitude, that is what begins that cycle in your mind. And so it's funny because, like, on the one hand, God commands us to be thankful. So yeah, on the one hand, it's like a parent telling the kid, no, you need to learn to be thankful. But even when God is saying learn to be thankful, he's not saying learn to pay lip service. He's saying learn to let the genuine things that you're thankful for start to take control in your mind. And when that begins to roll, your pride drops. You do become more of a humble person. You're seeing it through somebody else's eyes. And especially now with our essential employees, my wife is an essential employee. She goes to work for the water district in our local area Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. She's there in her office working. And I'm incredibly thankful for that because we have water.
Right.
It's just like when you think
Me
about
too.
those things, like the mail person, I was so thankful about, what was it, 2 weeks ago when the Rise of Skywalker arrived in my mailbox. That's just a simple, teeny tiny little pleasure, right? But the mail is a crucial thing. The fact that we have our mailmen out there still going around in this time in quarantine, working hard, delivering the mail. Like, these are things we need to figure out how to be more grateful for. Little things that we've taken for granted that now during this time of quarantine, it's a pretty big deal that they're out there doing this. And we need to be genuinely thankful for all the service they provide.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, Jesus talked about that too with, when he said, there'll be many that'll say unto me, Lord, Lord, and I know thee, and I'll say, I know thee not.
Yeah.
Because they have spoken his name, but they have not changed in their hearts.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I think that's why he cares, because I have often thought about, why does he care so much about what we say? He knows our hearts. So why does it matter what we say? It's because it's more important to him that we have these consecrated experiences
Yep.
than what we are exactly saying. So, but we have to say the words, the gratitude, in order to have those consecrated experiences.
Well, also think about what Jesus said. He said, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Yeah.
So usually what's already inside our heart, that's ruminating on the inside, finds its way out through our mouth. And so a lot of times the words that we speak is evidence to what's in our heart. And it goes back to that heart issue of Jesus wants us on the inside to give our heart to him, to let his joy, let his thankfulness, and let his peace rule, so that is what is genuinely coming out of our mouth.
Yeah. So something I would really challenge everybody listening to really think about gratitude all this next week. Think about gratitude and how you can express it more each day. It's so easy right now to express gratitude, and to really think about how that changes your heart and changes your life. And I think you'll have a really great experience. I know I did this week. And so I think, and especially it's really easy to sort of get in, even in this weird situation, it's easy to get in a routine and to forget that what you're experiencing is something to be grateful for. Like, for instance, I do interviews all the time, and almost multiple a week usually. Right now it's less, but anyway, I do interviews all the time for Hallmarkies podcast. And sometimes I can't get a little routine. Okay, I got to talk to this actor now. And then and every once in a while I'll have somebody else join me for the interview, and they're super excited. Like, I can't believe we get to interview this person. I'm like, yeah, I should really be more grateful for these opportunities. So it's always good to remember to be grateful. Yes. And to appreciate the people in your life. Even if they're just doing some simple thing, even if they're flawed, even if they're frustrating, it really helps you be happier in your life.
Yes.
Be closer to God if you can be grateful. So
true.
Yeah. And I'm certainly grateful for you.
And I'm grateful for you. This has been a blast every Sunday to get to do this. I'm grateful to talk every Sunday with these devotionals.
Me too. So let us know, if you're listening, let us know some things that you have to be grateful for, how this experience has impacted you in this way. We'd love to hear if you have any stories about gratitude and saying thank you during this time. I would love to hear those stories. And if you have any thoughts, just let us know on Twitter or in the comments section. That would be great. And so, Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube. Search my channel name, Durbania, and I will be the one and only channel that pops up. And I do movie reviews and rankings and things like that. I also do this thing called a theological analysis, where I love, like what Rachel and I are doing right now. I love to do that with movies and find deeper meanings and find God in movies. And so it's a blast. Love it if you'd come over and check out. I just yesterday, at the time we dropped this video yesterday, dropped a video on the Chronicles of Narnia, The Silver Chair. That was pretty epic to do. So
yeah,
love you to come over and check it out.
Sounds very good. You guys should totally do so. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also at the Hallmarkies podcast. So you can check out all those interviews that I've been doing. And I really enjoy it. Thanks so much and have a great week, everybody. And we'll talk to you next week. Bye.